They whispered about it in Akuta, a windswept coastal village where the ocean once sang lullabies to fishermen and children alike. But now, the sea was silent. It had been for years. At the very edge of the village, perched like a ghost at the tip of the cliff, stood a house that never quite belonged. Whitewashed walls gleamed too brightly, like they were scrubbed by invisible hands. Its windows were perfectly polished, reflecting nothing but your own fear. Yet no matter how fiercely the sun blazed overhead, the house cast no shadow, not in the soft light of morning, not in the burning heat of noon, not even during the strange and quiet darkness of a solar eclipse. The elders named it the House of Mirrors. But the children, whose imaginations still danced where adults feared to look, had another name for it. The house with no soul. Ikemba had no time for ghost stories. At 20, his face already bore the quiet resignation of a man twice his age. Since the fever stole his mother and grief stole his father's voice, Ikemba had lived for one reason alone, to keep his little sister, Amaka, alive and smiling. Every morning before the village woke up, he got up, stretched, and went out to the water with his net and paddle. He moved quietly through the fog like a shadow. The sea had always given them food and kept them alive. But that morning, something was wrong. The tide was quiet. The waves, which used to move and play, were now completely still like glass. There were no fish under his canoe. No crabs on the beach. Even the birds that usually flew above were gone. Ikemba sat still, chest rising and falling, trying to make sense of the silence. He dipped his fingers into the water. Nothing stirred. Then, it came. A voice. Soft. Fragile. Gentle. It wasn't spoken out loud, but it softly reached his ears, like a dream he almost forgot, pulling at him just as he was waking up. Help us. Ikemba jerked upright, his eyes scanning the horizon. There was no one. Just sky. Water. Stillness. But the voice had come from somewhere. No, someone. And it was not finished. Old Mama died, the village herbalist, hadn't talked about the sea spirits in a long time. But when Ikemba told her what he heard, her face went pale. She picked up an old cracked seashell and gave it to him. Hold it to your ear, she said. He did. The voice came back. This time it was louder. Clearer. He built the house that blocks our sun. He stole our song. He drowned our names. Since you are his son, you must break the mirrors and free our name. Ikemba stepped back, shocked. What do they mean? Whose son? Mama died looked at him, her eyes heavy with sadness too deep to explain. Your father, child, was Obanwankwo, the man who betrayed the sea. Many years ago, Obanwankwo was just a fisherman. He had little, but he was at peace. He lived a quiet life, casting his nets each day and thanking the sea for whatever it gave. One night, under the light of a full moon, Oba paddled farther than he ever had before. The waves led him to a secret cove, hidden behind tall rocks and glowing softly in the moonlight. It was there he saw them, mermaids, their long hair shining like silver, their songs floating on the wind like lullabies. Among them was Dolly. She wasn't like the others. Her voice could calm even the angriest storm. Her eyes held kindness, and her heart was full of love. When she looked at Oba, something stirred between them. They fell in love, deep, true, but forbidden. Humans and sea folk were never meant to mix. Still, Dolly made him a promise, a vow from the heart and the sea itself. As long as I love you, she whispered, your people will never go hungry. The sea will always give. The storms will always pass you by. And for a time, it was so. The village thrived. The sea was generous. Life was good. But Oba began to want more. He no longer wished to live like a common man. He wanted power, more than the sea, more than love. He dreamed of ruling, of being remembered forever, of never growing old. So he went looking for a darker kind of magic. He found it in the nameless wave, a sea spirit so cruel it had been banished to the deepest parts of the ocean. Oba begged it for power, for riches, for a life that would never end. The spirit agreed, but it asked for something in return. Not gold, not blood. It wanted the voices of the mermaids, the songs that held the sea in balance, the voices that could calm the tides and call the rain. He wanted their name. And Oba said yes. On the night of the blood moon, when the sky burned red and the waves were restless, Oba carried out his plan. He asked Dolly to meet him at the cliff, the place where they first shared their love. She came, her heart full of trust. Oba held her close and kissed her gently. But that kiss was a lie. It was the seal of the curse. In that moment, Dayla's voice was ripped from her throat, like wind torn from the sea. Her scream never came. Her heart, once so full of love, shattered like glass and fell into the ocean below, never to be whole again. But Oba didn't stop there. Using a special coral shell he collected from the wave without name, he stole pieces of the mermaid's song, notes that held power over the tides and stars. He played the song across the coast, letting it echo through the wind. The mermaids heard it and came, one by one, thinking they were being called by their sisters. But it was a trap. Waiting for them was Oba, and in his hands were chains made from pearled iron, a rare and cursed metal that only the sea's darkest magic could create. Each mermaid was captured and bound, their freedom stolen. Oba locked them inside enchanted mirrors, each one holding the soul of a mermaid. Then he built his grand mansion above the hidden cove, a house that cast no shadow, no matter how bright the sun. The house with no soul. But Oba's power came with a terrible price. His body began to rot from the inside. His skin looked perfect to others, but he felt it breaking, burning, peeling in silence. He could not sleep. The mirrors whispered to him at night, singing pieces of the stolen song in broken, sorrowful tones. He lived for many years, just as he asked. But he died screaming. Alone. Haunted by the voices he silenced. And most of all, unloved. Ikemba didn't want to believe it. How could it be true? How could he be the son of that man? The man who betrayed the sea? Who broke hearts and stole voices? But the house on the cliff seemed to know who he was. When he walked toward it, the heavy doors creaked open on their own. The air inside shimmered, as if the walls were waiting for him. He stepped inside. Every room held a mirror. And every mirror held a mermaid, trapped behind the glass. Their eyes were full of sadness. Their lips didn't move, but their pain filled the room like a heavy fog. He walked past them all, heart pounding, until he reached the final room. It was quiet, too quiet. In the center stood a mirror larger than any of the others. The frame was carved from coral in the shape of a heart. The glass shimmered like the surface of still water. Then, a crack, thin and jagged, spreading from the corner. A single tear slid down the inside of the mirror. And a voice, soft, worn, but still full of power, floated through the air. You look like him. But I hope you are not like him. It was Dolly. Her voice, even in a whisper, held 1,000 years of pain and a flicker of hope. Mama died had warned him. To destroy the house, she said, you must destroy your father's legacy. And yourself. Your blood is part of the curse. If you break the mirrors, you'll break too. But Ikemba wasn't afraid. He wasn't the man his father had been. Before he left, he wrote a note for Amaka. He told her to live, to keep singing, and one day, to tell the truth. Then he climbed the cliff for the last time. The house waited, quiet and heavy, like it knew. Inside, the air pressed down on him. The mirrors whispered his name. The floor moved beneath his feet like waves. Everything felt alive and angry. In his hand, he held just one thing. His father's coral dagger. He walked through the house, past the broken voices and the stolen faces, until he found the heart mirror, the one that held Dolly. She looked at him, eyes full of sorrow and hope. And with all his strength, Ikemba drove the dagger into the glass. It shattered. The wind roared. The house began to fall apart, walls groaning and floors crashing. One by one, the other mirrors cracked open. The mermaids were free. And so were their voices. They rose together, a chorus of light and water and power. The sea heard them. And for the first time in many years, the ocean breathed again. A giant wave rose from the ocean and swallowed the house, dragging it into the deep. The cliff broke apart. The sky rumbled with thunder. And Ikemba was gone. But the sea came back to life. Fish filled the nets again. Rain fell gently on the village. Sea turtles danced along the shore like they were celebrating. One quiet morning, Amaka visited the broken cliff where it had all ended. There, resting on the sand, was a single glowing shell. She picked it up with trembling hands, held it to her ear, and heard her brother's voice, clear and calm. I chose the sea. I chose the truth. Tell our story. Let it heal what he broke. And far beneath the waves, in a place that had been silent for so long, the mermaids sang once more. But now, they sang his name. Moral lessons. Greed can turn even love into something dangerous. True redemption isn't easy, it always comes with a cost. We are not our parents' mistakes, but we must be brave enough to break the cycle. When you free others, you find freedom for yourself too. The end. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and watch our videos all the way to the end. It really helps us out. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you in the next one.